The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys! This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
The Dallas Cowboys select Michael Parsons. Woo!
And now, your hosts, Bryan Broaddus, Jeff Cavanaugh, Kyle Youmans, and David Hellman.
It is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show presented by Miller Lite as we welcome you into the Star in Frisco and the SWBC studios. No David Hellman today, no Jeff Cavanaugh as well. It is Bryan Broaddus and myself, Kyle Youmans, trying to hold it down here from the Star in what is one of the more crazy weeks that I can remember covering this franchise.
It is. A happy St. Patrick's Day,
Happy St.
and to you as
Patrick's Day.
well. And I'm on the other end of it too on 105.3 The Fan with our show, and it's been a roller coaster ride. And my experience of being a former scout and working in the league and having friends that still do this in the league, the emotions that you feel at this time when you feel like you have something done, when it doesn't work out, the one you just missed on, the one you got. I mean, it's a very, very difficult time because you kind of you lay out your plan for how you want to build your team, before the draft. And if you could supplement it with a couple of players that can keep you from having to focus so much on the draft, it sure takes a lot of pressure off you. And this team is, last year did a really nice job with free agency. Though be it week 2, week 3 free agency, but they had a good plan. They got some good, play from the guys that they got, and to miss out on signing one of their own. Is a little bit of a kick in the gut, but you don't put your head in the sand and you go try and figure out some things.
And that's what we're going to do throughout the course of this show is look at alternative moves of action for this Cowboys team. Where do they go next? Is it possible to replace a guy like Randy Gregory? And we'll get into that here in a couple seconds. Is it possible to replace him in the NFL draft? But let's talk about that situation, because when we were recording on Tuesday, we were under the impression that Randy Gregory was going to have a star on the side of his helmet.
We were. Yes, we were.
We thought that was done. It was already agreed to terms. You felt like he was back. And then in the 30 minutes after the show had ended on Tuesday was when the news came out that he had a rocky ending, no pun intended, with Dallas going to Denver.
Right.
And he agrees to a 5-year deal there. So what is your initial reaction to that, or what was your initial reaction to that?
Trying to be really fair, because the owner and general manager one day reminded me in a hallway. He goes, "Hey, you're kicking my ass, but you're fair about it." And so I continue to kick his ass, but I try to be fair about it. And, my reaction was there's two sides of the story. Now, if you believe what, this is a Denver-based agent. He has ties with the Broncos. I talked to my folks at the Broncos. They're super, super happy about having Randy Gregory. That's number one in their mind. And so, if you're an agent and you have a client that somebody really, really wants, and you're based in that city, you can deliver players. You can try. I think that his group was looking for. They agreed to the deal. Then all of a sudden, it's like, well, maybe I need to get my client here closer to where I can watch him a little bit. And I think that's where you start to find, okay, well, maybe this language isn't right, and maybe that language isn't right. And so I've tried to get both sides of the story. The agent says there's language that they didn't like. The Cowboys said there was language that we always use. So it's somebody is right here, and I know a lot of agents and player personal guys I've talked to around the league says this agent is kind of off it a little bit. That he's not. That's dealing with him is never a good thing. And and unfortunate for Randy, I feel like that he wanted to be here in Dallas. I think he was excited about the opportunity of, he's got family and stuff here that he's into. And now it's, that situation where he's going to have to move to Colorado, and then, okay, how much are you really going to get to see your family? Sure, he's got millions of dollars now. He can charter planes or get plane tickets or whatever he needs to do. But this place was really his home. And, and I think the owner did everything he could for him. I think Randy went through some terrible stuff with what the league did to him. So there was a relationship there, and the fact that it ended the way it did, I think both sides are to blame. Maybe the Cowboys negotiated a little with hard tactics, or up until up till the signing period, and maybe the agent just said, "Listen, I'm a Denver-based agent. Getting a player that the Broncos like is a feather in my cap." So I think there's a couple of factors really rolling on here.
Man, and it could be both sides to blame. I think to a certain extent,
absolutely,
it is both sides to blame, because there's always two stories or two sides to each
somebody's
story.
right here.
Yeah,
somebody's right.
No doubt.
And the Cowboys will tell you that they never had a chance to remove the provision or even talk about that.
Yeah.
The agent will say that they put the provision in there on them and they didn't say anything about it. But if you look at some of the common contracts they've had, or the contracts in the past, Randy Gregory's contract has that provision. So maybe they wanted it removed, but I don't feel like the Cowboys were ever given the opportunity to remove it. That's what they're saying. The agent's saying, no. The Cowboys had a chance. We never got to talk to them about it. So it is. It's a very, very tough situation here. I think Randy Gregory is in the middle of it.
Yep.
And unfortunately, though, he moves on, and the Dallas Cowboys do have a lot of money that they earmarked for him that is, available now to go try and fix some things.
Very happy for Randy Gregory.
Yep.
Let's put that out there. Everybody here, I think, is happy for Randy Gregory to get the money he did, to get the contract and the opportunity that he has to finally make that NFL money, unlike he did early in his career. But it puts the Cowboys in a tough situation.
It does.
Here's where they have to respond. And at least to this point, they haven't really responded with anything. It looked like there were names out there. Von Miller, of course, was being thrown around. He signs a deal with the Buffalo Bills. Then you've got Chandler Jones going to the Raiders. They had names to potentially replace Randy Gregory, Zadarius Smith.
Smith, yeah. You had to figure out the back with Zadarius Smith, and I talked to people with the Packers like literally minutes before he signed back with the Ravens. He was like, I was thinking, hey, how good is this back? And because, we were starting to hear reports that the Cowboys were involved. Well, the Cowboys really never got involved. I mean, this guy was going back to the Ravens. But everything that Green Bay, my guys tell me the back is fine. He's ready to play. So, I was thinking there were going to be questions about that. But, yeah, it went really, really fast. And the problem is when you're thinking about the Cowboys, you're thinking, well, they're in, but they're really not in. They talk
the due diligence is the word that's kind of being thrown around.
They talk about being in on deals, and they're really not in on deals.
And with that being said, now you have to look at maybe back-end edge rushers, the guys that aren't the top of the market, because pretty much all those guys are off the board with the exception of maybe a Bobby Wagner there. I wouldn't even really classify him as a pure edge rusher, but maybe the Bobby Wagner guy that you could add to the second level of the defense is still around.
Yeah.
However, edge rusher may be where we talk about early in the draft. It doesn't have to be at 24, but early on. Is it possible, first off, just to get this out of the way, to replace the production of Randy Gregory early in this draft class? Because kind of doesn't look like it, at least if you're not outside, or if you're outside of the top 10, 15 picks.
Yeah, I think that, depending on how this draft falls, and I think we've done a really good job so far of kind of identifying the top guys. I think whoever the Cowboys take at 24, I think there's going to be a really good name there. It might be a player that has a little bit of a deficiency, or is not the tallest, or not the longest, or not doesn't have the longest arms, but is a really, really good player. I think you can eliminate Thibodeau, Hutchinson. I think you can eliminate Walker. Thibodeau, Oregon; Hutchinson, Michigan; Walker, Georgia. I think
those your top three on your board?
That to me, I think you can eliminate just watching how this thing might fall. Now we're talking about the Karlaftis from Purdue, Jermaine Johnson from Florida State, a Jobo from Michigan. I would even Mafe from Minnesota. Sure. I would even consider a guy. These are guys that I personally like. Those would be the guys, and then you get into the others that they might like Drake Jackson more than me, or they might like these guys. So I just kind of feel like, though, that at 24. The guy that I would really, really like out of all that would be Karlaftis from Purdue. I think he could fill that role for you with Randy, with the pressures. I think he plays the run well enough. There's just a lot of positive things about him. Jermaine Johnson, if you talk to the scouts around the league about Jermaine Johnson, they're kind of saying that the media scouts have him higher than a lot of teams are going to have.
Sure.
So we'll see how that plays out. The thing with Ajobo at Michigan, and I don't know how you feel about this, I think he's the one that has the biggest upside. I think the rawness of him, though, is a little bit scary to me.
No, I'm right there with you. I have him as the bendy, athletic, other quote-unquote edge rusher from Michigan because Aiden Hutchinson ate up a lot of those double teams and it left Ajobo open. We talked about this with Dane Brugler at the Combine, too, but you're right. He's very raw. There's a lot you could add to his game, but the traits are all there for Ajobo. I think ultimately he could be that next level edge rusher, but it wouldn't be immediately. That's the only thing.
Yeah, you're going to want somebody that you can plug and play, and the determination is with this draft. And like I say, if you get a shot at drafting Walker from Georgia, I mean, just hand that card in. Let's go. Kind of
I'm right there with you.
But that's kind of where it is on the defensive end. I know that some people, and this is just on something that I'm hearing, because of Danielle Hunter being at Minnesota, they have a roster bonus that they have to come up with, a guaranteed part of his contract. I don't know exactly the number on it. I need to know that before my show today. But there's people I asked around the league, I said, what do you give up for Danielle Hunter, who is an established pass rusher? And you talk about, if he was available, you would talk about him in that group with the Von Millers and Chandler Jones and guys like that. And everybody seems to think, I talked to 3 teams this morning, that third-round compensation would be what you would consider doing. And I'm like going, oh, okay, so it's not a 1 or a 2. It's actually could be a 3. And so, you've got all these multiple 5s. You've got a third. If you really wanted to go do this and you wanted to fix this pass rush situation, you'd go trade for him and then figure out a way to redo the contract.
Yeah, make a move.
Make a move that way. So there's options for them there. If they want to go big time and swing for the fences, give up a 3. You could take all those 5s, move those 5s back up into the third round if you were worried about losing your 3. But man, you get an established player. It would take a lot of pressure off them having to hope that if Karlaftis is there or Johnson's there or one of those guys there, that it kind of could focus them on some of these other positions, whether it's the linebacker, the receiver, or one of those interior offensive linemen.
$18 million is the bonus, the roster bonus that vests on Sunday for Minnesota. That's a lot of money to try and move around for a team that claims that they don't have a ton of money to work with.
Yeah.
But
see, that's the problem, though, I think, with the Cowboys. I mean, you have to kind of figure out, okay, what were you willing to give Randy? Were you ever willing to do that with Von Miller? It doesn't appear so.
Nope.
Chandler Jones. I mean, to me, you go get a Danielle Hunter, and people are going to be critical of me again because he's LSU. I'm just saying, just watch him play at Minnesota. Look at the sack numbers at Minnesota. Look at the pressures. Yeah, he was nicked up last year. But, you could go get a guy like that. If you're telling me I could sacrifice a third, I'll figure out the money. Because there's nobody on that board. I remember being in Philadelphia and working the 1998 draft with Mike Lombardi, and we had a second-round pick, and Hugh Douglas was at the Jets. And Hugh was really a good player coming out of college. Jets draft him in the first round. Parcells wants to get rid of him. Mike Lombardi makes a deal. He comes to me, he goes, hey, man, I could get Hugh Douglas for a second-round pick. And I'm looking at my board, and I go, Mike, there's nobody on that board in the second round that's better than Hugh Douglas. Tell me on your board who's better at the third round than Danielle Hunter if you could pull that deal. And you get that pass rusher. So I'm all for a deal like that. I don't know necessarily if the Cowboys would do something, but I think that our show today is talking about options. That's an option I would surely consider.
I agree completely. And you're looking at third-round names like maybe a Cameron Thomas, San Diego State, Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State.
Exactly.
You're not going to get a Danielle Hunter in the third round. At least
Sanders,
right now, that's going to come in and
Benito,
plug and play.
Yeah, I mean, there's all these guys to me that if you're gonna try and grab a third-round defensive end, I think you might be in a little bit of a trouble there.
So based off of what you're saying, 4 edge rushers that could plug and play day one.
I think so. I mean, to me, I know people have them in different order. I really do like Thibodeau. I like Hutchinson a lot. I mean, Walker has elevated himself, and not just because of the workout. You could watch him play end. You could watch him play in defensive tackle, as far as when they go nickel stuff. I mean, that's a long, bendy guy, as you like to say. And, with Karlaftis, I mean, that guy's got some quality traits too. Johnson, like I say, people will have Johnson in there as well. I just kind of feel like that now, those 4 guys I mentioned, and then the second round from there.
I'm right there with you. 4 first-round grades, Karlaftis being the 4th of those.
Yep.
Now, how much do you play in whenever you're looking at these prospects and you're thinking for the Cowboys specifically? I know we're not just a Cowboys show. We like to talk about the prospects too.
Right.
So we can kind of relay this outside of that. How much do you play in the factor of fit with 3-4, 4-3?
I don't. Yeah,
it's not as much as it used to be.
Not
right?
at all. No, because what happened, what was just proven this past year with Dan Quinn is the fact that he used a linebacker as one of his best pass rushers. So, I mean, that I think that to me, it's about adaptability. It's about that, we all would. Micah Parsons was a nice pick, but Micah Parsons became a rare pick when he became a pass rusher. And I don't think there were many draft shows where we came on and we're talking about Micah Parsons as being this rare pass rusher.
No.
So it's about adaptability. It's almost some at times out of necessity and maybe desperation that you try things and you're like, my God, that thing just worked out.
Week 2 against L.A.
Yeah.
That was desperation. You didn't have Randy. You didn't have DeMarcus Lawrence.
Didn't have anything. You had to have
Here's Micah.
Yeah, exactly. And once we all figured out that he could rush the passer, then he becomes the defensive player of the year kind of guy. Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately. And by the way, the Cowboys, according to Todd Archer 17 minutes ago, saying they are closing in on a deal to retain defensive end Dorrance Armstrong.
Yeah, and you knew that was going to happen.
As soon as Randy was out the door, you knew that was the next
Armstrong
step.
is going to happen. Maybe you get Brett Urban back. Maybe, they'll have a flurry of these signings now that are kind of, and will they go after a guy like Hunter? No, but we have to talk about it.
Sure.
You have to say, okay, and then when he ends up somewhere else, then we're all going to look at each other like, okay, well, why not? And we knew this. You're going to get all the flurry of those signings. Hopefully hopefully they'll get Curse done, and then like I say, you'll have 2 or 3 other ones that should fall into place.
Yeah, it's how did they use the money? How do they respond after Randy put them in a tough spot? Ultimately, the Randy Gregory signing going into that. You felt like this offseason was heading in the right direction.
I went on Twitter and gave the front office credit for how they handled Tank's deal and then how they got Randy done. And then everybody's on me now about, well, that aged well. And that's I was
the nature of the league.
Yeah, it's the nature of the league. You don't feel like you're going to sign a guy then lose a guy.
No.
That wasn't going to be the case.
No, and up until the Randy debacle happened, really the only knock in the offseason was the Amari Cooper and the trade there. And we talked about that a lot on Tuesday.
And they'd had enough. They'd moved on from Amari. And that's fine. They got the compensation they wanted. They got the contract off the books. And so they've got themselves the space. And now go figure out what's going on at wide receiver. Make sure that Michael Gallup gets as completely as healthy as you can. Mm-hmm. Britt Brown and these guys do a hell of a job rehabbing those ACL injuries. I have a feeling this kid will be as good as new before the season starts.
Man, we were talking about interior offensive line, offensive tackle, interior defensive line, and now it's edge rusher and wide receiver. That's kind of where we're going at the moment. When we come back, we'll answer your questions. Twitter on the 20. Bryan and I will return in just a moment.
At Smoothie King, we are blending goodness to fuel your greatness. Every blend is crafted to help you achieve your health and fitness goals. Smoothie King uses only whole fruits and organic veggies. You'll never find sugary syrups or artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. And unlike some other smoothie places, there are 0 grams of added sugar in many of our blends. Smoothie King is proud to be the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys. Place your order in the app or online for pickup or delivery. Smoothie King, rule the day.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Football season is almost over, and that means tax season is here. With it comes taxiety. Filing taxes can be stressful if you choose the wrong partner. Don't let taxiety take over this tax season. Liberty Tax will help you get your largest possible refund or your money back. With more than 12,000 tax professionals nationwide, help is always around the corner. Check out Liberty Tax, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Schedule an appointment today at libertytax.com/Cowboys. Liberty Tax, a brighter way to do taxes.
Hey, Cowboys Cowboys fans, if you're thinking about attending a game this season, visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today. Stay at the team hotel, have dinner with a Cowboys legend, and experience AT&T Stadium's exclusive VIP Owners Club. Also, tour the Star, get autographs from your favorite players, and talk X's and O's with me, Mickey Spagnola. The official travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys will take care of all your travel needs. Visit cowboystravel.com.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
It's the second segment of the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show, and you know what that means. Is it there?
Twitter on the 20.
It is. Got
Sorry,
it.
I thought you were going to read.
Oh, no, I didn't pull the read up in time. My bad. Yeah, welcome back in. Bryan Broaddus, Kyle Youmans, Twitter on the 20 time, where we answer your questions off of Twitter. Let's stay away from edge rusher for a split second. We may go back to it here in a little bit, but I know we talked about it a lot in the first segment. Let's go back to interior offensive line. If the Cowboys do indeed get lucky enough to pick Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa at pick number 24, who could they target in the later rounds 2 through 7 at guard? Because double dipping on that offensive line to get 2 new starters in the draft. So basically, you're talking about starter caliber players at guard from rounds 2 through 7.
I really do like you start to talk about guys like Mumford from Ohio State. I think Ryan from UCLA. These are guys that played offensive tackle during the year. Chris Paul was another one. I'm not the basketball player that you see on the commercials, but Chris Paul from Memphis, I think, would be a guy that I would surely consider right there at the guard spot. So, yeah, I mean, the Cowboys could very well fall in love with Green from Texas A&M at that spot. I mean, it seems like to me he's slipping. Zion Johnson is a guy that's getting a lot of momentum. I could see the Cowboys totally being invested in a guy like Zion Johnson. Boston College has a great history. I know those are early guys. Kennard, Kentucky, kind of earlier second-round potential guys. So, but I'd say I would keep an eye on Mumford from Ohio State, Ryan from UCLA, Chris Paul from
Tulsa.
Did I say Memphis?
Yeah, you did, but that's okay.
I said, Tulsa is what I meant. I'm sorry.
Chris Paul, I like him a lot. He was a Combine invite, Senior Bowl guy. Really kind of stood out from time to time. Wasn't the best player on the field by any means in terms of the offensive line and the guard position, but he was always a guy who you kind of kept an eye on. Yeah. Do you think Ed Ingram could potentially fall if Kenyon Green is falling like he is? Do you think Ed Ingram out of LSU could be there at 56?
You know what? I really do like Ingram. He is my favorite guard. The reason I don't bring him up as much is because, again, he's not. I have Green above him, and then I have Ingram, and then I have Johnson. Got it. Just the preference that I have there. But yeah, I think with Ingram, I think there's some people. I mean, there's some questions about like how well he really moves. I mean, people were talking about that early. And I was watching the tape. I watch a ton of LSU games. I mean, I watch every one of them, and I was watching the tape, and I was watching Alabama, and I was watching Texas A&M, and I saw a second-level blocker and all that. I mean, I didn't see a guy that struggled. I saw a guy that played with a lot of power, though. That's the thing about it that I was really, I was kind of thinking about with the Cowboys situation there, playing inside. One thing that Jerry Jones is really, really, really big on is the fact that he doesn't want the front of the pocket to collapse. Nobody does. Quarterbacks can't deal when they could deal with the edge. They can't deal with what happens in front. And that's why you've seen Jerry Jones kind of invest in like with Travis Frederick and Zach Martin and high picks on interior offensive linemen. Heck, Connor McGovern had a grade of 1-2-1. Which is low numbers the best, and that's the top of the second round. Wow, is where his grade was. But I mean, the thing about Ingram, he's able to open some big holes, and I mean, there's you could see it behind him. They're running the football, the knee bend, the body control. He gets his hands inside. I mean, I just see a powerful guy forklifting his guy up. So I just kind of thought he was a guy that I'd really, really like. 6'3", 307. It's just kind of got that build to play inside. And, again, Zion Johnson's a little bit same height, about 5 pounds heavier if you want to tailor the tape.
No, that's great. And I'm looking at Ed Ingram above Zion Johnson. They're touching tags right now.
Yeah.
And I've thought about making that switch too, because you and I feel like, are the only two on this show that aren't as high on Zion as maybe a Kavanaugh.
Yeah, and you know what? And if he's selected by the Cowboys, please don't take me wrong. It might be just a bad day of watching tape, But I just kind of feel like, though, there's Green, Ingram, Johnson. They're all right there in a cluster.
Yep.
And I'll be the first to admit, when we get to the process, if the Cowboys take Zion Johnson and he steps in there and he gives you stability at that left guard spot, I'll be the first one to admit, because I do. There's some issues I have. I think all these guys have got issues. And like I say, at 24, you're going to have something that's going to be wrong with you. You're going to have good things. Mm-hmm. You're going to have like a list of, if you take the legal pad, you're going to have your good list on one side, and then you're going to have 2 or 3 things on that other side that you're going, okay, can I live with this?
Sure.
Can I live with this? And I think all 3 of these guys, Johnson, Ingram, Green, have those kinds of abilities.
It's that same kind of thing you talk about, damaged goods. Whenever you get to that latter part, still a really, really good football player.
No question. There's times where I've gotten into about the Bosas and people like that. And, guys, I still have them like highly ranked. I'm just letting you know there's things that you kind of look at that you say, okay, this could keep him from being – there's a reason why he's at 24 and not at 8 or 10.
Top 10 pick,
exactly.
No doubt. Eric asks, if you're trading in between 24 and 56, you're trying to get right back up into that top 50 realm, what would that take, and what would your strategy change? Like, how would it change if you had 3 picks in the top 56?
Yeah, I think my strategy, what it would take is I always like to use players, and I was trying to think about Jacksonville, and I was thinking about Jets, and I was thinking about Jacksonville with the offensive lineman, with Lyle Collins, using him as a way to go from that, the middle of the second round all the way up. I was thinking about the Jets when it came to with the Amari Cooper, trade. How do you get up into those spots? So, yeah, I mean, you've got ammunition. You think like, well, they're only 5th round picks. Put them all together. Somebody will say, well, heck yeah, I'll take your 3 and your 2 5s and we'll go, I mean, so there's ways of doing it. And I think people really, you try and get people to let them keep their picks. If you're interested in flopping picks is another thing that's really, I think, a really good weapon to use that some teams, like we saw in the Commanders and Colts trade, was a flopping of where you're going to pick. So, yeah, I was targeting, like I said, I was now trying to think about Lyle Collins. But, Jacksonville has done a whole lot with their offensive line now and stuff like that since we last talked. So
they've spent a lot of money.
Yeah, they've spent a lot of money. And so, but if you can take all those 5s you got and put a couple of them with a 3, you could go up into that area I was talking about, the 33 to 40 if you really, but it's going to cost you probably, 2 or 3 picks to do it.
And then possibly a player. Do you think Lyle could be kind of collateral in that as well?
I was hopeful, but if I'm hearing that Danielle Hunter, who is a really good player, is going for potentially a 3rd round pick, then what's Lyle Collins going to go for? Is he going to go for a 4 or 5? I was hopeful a 3 would be where he's at, but people are kind of in that mode right now. There's questions. I know for a fact that the New England Patriots have talked about, Lyle Collins, and they moved on from Shaq Mason, I believe, and stuff like that. So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if the 5th round pick that the Patriots got, in the Mason deal ends up in Dallas for Lyle Collins or something like that. Yeah.
I can see that happening. Aaron says, who is your top graded kicker? Have you watched any kickers yet?
No, I mean,
okay.
I think, the thing about it is that, I know from a fact, the kid at LSU, I've seen him with my own eyes, has been outstanding. Cade York. I think Oklahoma. I think there's Texas has the
Cameron Dicker.
Yeah, I mean, there's, to me, when you got, again, there's all those 5s. Do you turn around and draft a kicker? Or do you turn around and draft a punter?
Have you looked at Ariza from San Diego State
I have
yet?
seen him play. Yeah,
he's pretty phenomenal.
And he is, absolutely, and probably going to have to go higher than these kickers and punters. People are realizing that the kicking game is such an important part. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals; they lived on their kicking game the last part of the season. and was able to make that work. So I don't think you could discount, I think the thing with Johnny Hecker being available now, the Rams moving on from him, or I think they moved on potentially. I know I was hearing some stories that they might. But yeah, does Bones Fossil step in there? And I'm sure Bones will be at these workouts. I'm sure he's going to go to Texas. I'm sure he's going to go to LSU. I'm sure he's going to go all over the country. Maybe go out to San Diego State to see if that kid is really as a weapon as he is.
Could be something interesting to look out for, because if you maybe take those fives, if you hold on to those fives, I'm with you. I would rather punch them up. Yeah. Let's go up and get somebody. Yeah. Maybe try and get in the top 100 again. Yeah. That's a tough task. You may have to give up all four for that. But if you keep the fives, draft your punter, draft your kicker.
That's what I'm saying.
Then they're cheap.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. You make sure that you're keeping somebody else. These punters and kickers, though, we might see again, and we've seen it in history. Not till like it was in the 1970s when guys like Steve Little and Russell Erxleben and those guys were getting picked in the first round. I think John Lee was another one that was a really high pick. I mean, we used to see first and second round kickers all. Sebastian Janikowski was a first round. So, yeah, I kind of feel like, though, that you'll see people probably take these punters and kickers earlier than maybe the Cowboys might be willing to.
No, I agree with you, especially Ariza, because we were talking with Dane at the Combine. You look at him almost as a defensive player.
Absolutely.
Because of the way he can flip the field and kind of push an offense back and put their backs against the wall. Stewart asks, since we lost Randy Gregory, since the Cowboys lost Randy Gregory in free agency, does edge rusher all of a sudden take priority over wide receiver, linebacker, offensive guard? How does it shift your needs immediately?
I'd say this on 105.3 every day. If it's not helping Dak, I'm really not interested. That's my attitude now. I'm on the help Dak train. Okay. And so to me, if Dan Quinn has proven to me that he could take defensive players. He didn't have his best defensive players. Are they going to get all the turnovers they got last year? Maybe not. But, I think Dan Quinn will do things to put his players in positions to make plays. So, yeah, I mean, to me, I don't sit there and just say, okay, I got to have a defensive end now. I don't. And I'm not saying Dorrance Armstrong, and hey, Dorrance Armstrong, let me tell you, I got tired of seeing Dorrance Armstrong have one great game and then have three bad ones where he was not a factor. Yeah. Last year was Dorrance Armstrong's best year as far as this consistency goes. I think he had one less sack than Randy Gregory in that thing, and Dorrance Armstrong played really, really well. So let's see. Let's see what you got with Golston. That's another one that I kind of saw some of the similar traits of what with Tank playing the run. Don't let him outside. Is he the pass rush guy? It took Tank a little time to develop some pass rush moves and stuff like that. So maybe you'll see something with Golston, but I don't think you necessarily have to say, okay, we're just gonna draft a defensive end. No, help Dak Prescott, receiver, guard, center, whatever that is, to help Dak Prescott. Make sure you get that done.
Where do you put those three positions right
I think I would go offensive line first. They seem to have a pretty good feel for this when they plug and play first-round offensive linemen. It worked out really well for them.
Been pretty good, huh?
Yeah, it has.
Zach Martin, Travis Frederick,
absolutely.
It's worked, right?
No,
Tyron Smith.
It's been a really good plug and play. Has been very, very good for them. And I'm hopeful that if it's Green or Johnson or Ingram or any of those guys, I'm hoping it's plug and play and let's go.
Yeah.
Or if it's Lindenbaum, the center from Iowa, let's go. But this team has to find a way. They have to get back to running the football. That helps Dak Prescott. We saw what it did the first 8 weeks of the season. And then the inability not to run the football, and then teams started playing. And teams were daring you to run the football, and you couldn't run the football. Something has to change there.
Yeah. Speaking of running the football, Michael asked about any day 3 running backs you could potentially look at that the Cowboys could be interested in.
Yeah, and I haven't. It's interesting because I haven't done a whole heck of a lot of it.
I haven't either.
But I'll tell you what is I'm going to probably say this poor kid's name wrong. Is it Kyren Williams from Kyren Williams
from Notre Dame?
From Notre Dame.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is Kyren Williams is interesting because to me he's a little bit of a shorter guy, 5'9", 194 pounds.
They have him listed at 5'9". I haven't updated that sheet yet. Mine said 5'11".
No, he's 5'9" from the combine, 194 pounds. But man, this guy, you talk about a short, compact build. He's got the body control, the balance. He could stay on his feet. He's a hard guy to knock down, and I think his lack of height actually helps him get through tiny cracks and gaps and stuff. And when you feel like he's trapped and now he's out. And so I kind of have him as this guy as like that Kavanaugh and them like to talk about the 3-4 cheater grade. I have them as straight 4 on this. But, man, there's some running backs in this draft that, I'm sure that I'm going to get through a lot of them. But the top guys, I don't have a first-round running back, but I have a bunch. I have several of them that are 2s. Hall from Iowa State, Spiller from Texas A&M, Walker from Michigan State. Those are all like second-round running backs to me. I haven't put a third-round running back in there yet, but those are the guys that I've kind of seen right now.
I've watched 5 running backs, and I've kind of like where I feel comfortable with it. And I've watched 10 total just for the Draft magazine, writing these bios. And out of the 5 that I've watched, Spiller, Walker, Hall are my second-round guys. And then after that, I've got Williams because I liked his scat back ability. He can catch out of the backfield too. James Cook from Georgia.
I've heard good things about him.
Very good ball player. And then you've got a pretty big drop-off from Cook. Those 5 guys I feel really comfortable about. Then you've got Brian Robinson Jr. from Alabama, Devontae Price from FIU, who we saw at the Senior Bowl, longer, taller back. And then Abram Smith from Baylor, who's just kind of a bowling ball bounder.
Well, the kid, like you mentioned, Cook, Robinson, White. What about your guy, Abram Smith? Did you mention him at all?
Yeah, I did. And the reason why I like him is because he's compact. He's low tread on the tires at the moment. He was only a full-time running back his senior year. He was full-time, but he didn't play a whole lot as a freshman and a sophomore. Moved him to linebacker, was nearly an all Big 12 linebacker his junior year, and then flipped him back around. He had 1,600 yards and a ton of touchdowns, 13 touchdowns as a senior.
Yeah.
Low tread on the tires. He's a physical back. Didn't perform as well as I thought he would in Indianapolis and also in Mobile. I thought both of them were kind of disappointing.
Well, then that might be something why some people have talked about him as like a 4th, 5th round kind of a guy. So.
I wouldn't take him any higher than that.
Gotcha.
Just because of the question marks there. And I think he's a good tailback, but he's not one of those guys that's going to come in and be a starter initially in the draft. What about Sam Williams from Ole Miss, edge rusher? Have you looked at him at all?
No, and then and a bunch of people have been tweeting at me about him, and so I'm very, very interested about to see where he's at on this board. It's amazing that I haven't got to him, and defensive end might be the position that I've seen the most of, which is really funny. 7, 12, another 16. I've seen 16 guys, and I haven't got to him yet. So, I mean, I think this is something. I was going off Dane Brugler's. Dane sent me a list of guys, and maybe initially he was not one of those guys. But, I know that I have to look at him.
You said you've watched 16 guys, 17 guys? Yeah. I have him as 17 on my board.
Do you?
And I haven't watched him yet either.
Yeah.
Cowboys met with him in Indy, so I know that. That's one thing on him. And then he was a late addition to the Senior Bowl roster.
There you go.
So we'll answer that question at some point. That's our homework assignment for Sam Williams.
It's funny because there's a lot of these guys you're trying to kind of catch back up that maybe somebody, like I said, who
did you miss?
Yeah, who did I miss? But, and I look at I'm looking at Dane Brugler's list that he sent me, and I'm counting every one of these guys but there's names like Dominique Robinson from Miami, Ohio, then Sam Williams from Ole Miss.
Yep.
John Pascal from Kentucky. I mean, Dominic Robinson from Miami, Ohio is like a 2-3 on Dane's board. Sam Williams is a 3. I mean, these are guys that evidently, because I've looked at plenty of the Sanders from Cincinnati, Bonito from Oklahoma, Barno from Virginia Tech. I mean, these are guys that all Sam Williams is on Dane's board now is better. But, I mean, that's been the change from what we've seen.
Now, going back to what you were talking about a little bit ago about helping Dak Prescott and the way that you kind of organize your needs, Brandon asked, I'm going to give you 5 names.
Okay.
All of these guys are available at pick 24.
Okay.
Who are you taking? Treylon Burks, wide receiver out of Arkansas. George Karlaftis, edge rusher from Purdue. Nakobe Dean, linebacker from Georgia. Kenyon Green, offensive guard from Texas A&M. And Jamison Williams, wide receiver from Alabama.
Well, Jamison Williams is my number 1 wide receiver.
Ooh.
So then I think you would have to start as I look as you just named, and I'll just tell you how my first round grades are.
Okay.
And maybe that will help. I've got Jamison Williams as my number 1 wide receiver.
Okay.
I have Burks as my number 3 wide receiver. You said
who's 2? Just curious.
Wilson.
Okay.
Okay, and then you said the next one. You said Green. I have Green in the second round. Okay, now when the Cowboys pick at 24, they're going to pick a second-round grade likely, unless I've got 20.
Somebody falls.
Yeah, somebody falls. I've got 20 first-round grades. So if they're picking somebody at 24, they're likely picking a second-round grade on your board.
Let's hope somebody falls.
Yeah, let's hope somebody falls. But yeah, the first round, Dean was my first linebacker. Karlaftis is my fourth edge rusher. The guy that probably would help you the most is probably now, depending on what Green, again, I mean, I'm just looking at my grades. Jamison Williams would probably help you the most at wide receiver. Burks would probably help you the most at wide receiver. And now you're getting into Karlaftis helping you on defense. I think I would take Karlaftis over Dean on defense there.
Okay.
So is there anybody else I missed? And then Green would probably be the fifth guy. But Green could very well step in and be plug and play.
So you're still wide receivers 1, 2 there. Williams first, then Burks.
Yeah, if you're just going for best, if you're just going off my board,
sure.
If you're saying, okay, rank them how they're on your board. Now the Cowboys could say, okay, Green 1, they could say Karlaftis 2, Dean 3. They could totally switch this thing up, and the wide receivers could be not the priority here. But if I was drafting off my board and my 1 to 190, Jamison Williams and Burks would be over Green and Dean, is what you mentioned here.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Williams and Burks would be over those two guys pretty easily. Karlaftis is where I kind of have pause. I really like George. You like
Karlaftis. You liked him. You like him as a guy, or you don't like him?
I like him a lot.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's, to me, he's going to be the one guy. If you said, okay, grab the best player of need.
Yeah.
That's, you just combine the two.
And all those guys are needs.
Yeah. I'd say Williams, Burks, Karlaftis, Dean. All these guys are needs. It's a really good question.
Williams and Burks are my top 2 wide receivers. Williams I have as a firm first round.
Yeah.
Burks is a firm first round, but just a little bit below Williams. And then I've got Garrett Wilson right there in a bunch. And then it's Drake London, Olave, Mechie. Those are my next 3.
Yeah. I've got 4. Williams, Wilson, Burks, Olave are my 4 wide receivers.
Sure. And so I'm right there with you. And then I turn around to edge rushers, and those top 4 edge rushers I can't get away from. Thibodeau, Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker from Georgia, and then Karlaftis.
I've seen the same one.
If those 4 guys are there, I'm all over it at 24. But hey, that's a fun one, Brandon. Good question.
Good question.
When we come back, we're going to talk about some day 3 prospects we haven't necessarily gotten to yet. We're going to try and throw out a bunch of names that you haven't heard previously when we come back here on The Draft Show.
Football season is almost over, and that means tax season is here. With it comes taxiety. Filing taxes can be stressful if you choose the wrong partner. Don't let taxiety take over this tax season. Liberty Tax will help you get your largest possible refund or your money back. With more than 12,000 tax professionals nationwide, help is always around the corner. Check out Liberty Tax, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Schedule an appointment today at libertytax.com/Cowboys. Liberty Tax, a brighter way to do taxes.
Hey, Cowboys fans, if you're thinking about attending a game this season, visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today. Stay at the team hotel, have dinner with a Cowboys legend, and experience AT&T Stadium's exclusive VIP Owners Club. Also, tour the star, get autographs from your favorite players, and talk X's and O's with me, Mickey Spagnola. The official travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys will take care of all your travel needs. Visit cowboystravel.com.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, sinking, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
This is Chad Hennings, former cowboy and proud veteran of the United States Air Force. When my fellow military veterans choose VA, they receive life-changing benefits from the Department of Veterans Affairs. If you are a veteran, you may be eligible for healthcare, education, and training benefits, a home loan guarantee, housing assistance, and more. Choose VA for the benefits you've earned. Visit choose.va.gov to learn more. That's choose.va.gov.
is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
It's tax season. Liberty Tax is proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Schedule an appointment today at libertytax.com/Cowboys. Also, Bryan, your favorite WWE superstars are returning to AT&T Stadium for WrestleMania Saturday, April 2nd and Sunday, April 3rd. Get your tickets to the most stupendous two-night WrestleMania in history. Visit SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing provider of AT&T Stadium.
You know, I used to watch wrestling in Dallas in the 70s when I was growing up, and then in some of the 80s, and then I lost track. And the thing they were telling me about the WrestleMania stuff, everybody that's gone to WrestleMania says it's an absolute blast.
Oh, I'm sure.
Whether you like wrestling or not, you have to see it to believe it. And, you know, it's all about the showmanship, you know, and they do a great job with that stuff. So I'm sure that it'll be, I'm not going to go this year probably.
Yeah.
And everybody will, once again, like, way to go, Broaddus. You had a chance to go and you didn't go. And I'm like, well, you know, I don't get into the wrestling like I once did.
I'm out of town that weekend, and I'm actually sad that I'm missing it. I'm not even a wrestling guy, which...
Oh, no, they say it's a spectacle.
It takes me a little bit to admit that because I come from North Texas.
Sure.
North Texas has a rich history of
Von
wrestlers.
Erichs and stuff,
Von Erichs, Steve Austin. They have so many of those wrestling names. So coming from North Texas, of course, I just didn't I never got into it.
Yeah.
Bill Mercer was a huge wrestling nut.
Sportatorium.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I might have to go at some point, but I'm not in town for that one, which is not ideal. Final segment here of the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. He's Brian Broaddus. I'm Kyle Youmans. Glad you're with us. We'll be back with Hellman and Kavanaugh on Tuesday, but I thought, Brian, over the next 13 minutes or so, we could get into some day three guys. And honestly, in the second segment, I think we started kind of getting into the weeds there a little bit of day three guys, names that we haven't necessarily touched on, because I feel like we've hit pretty much every first-round name you could possibly get to a certain extent over the course of this show. And then second round, we've kind of tipped our toe. What about day three, maybe even late third-round guys that you've watched but you haven't necessarily had a chance to talk about yet?
You know, I think to me that I brought up the corner Martin Emerson from Mississippi State.
Okay.
You know, I really do like him. I don't know if you've seen Brian Cook, the safety from Cincinnati. Have you looked at him at all?
No, I have not.
Okay, and you know, I think to me that, you know, if the Cowboys, depending on what they do at safety, if they don't, you know, we might all get surprised and Dax Hill is the best player on the board, and they say, oh, we got to have Dax Hill and from Michigan. But this Brian Cook from Cincinnati is an interesting guy just because he's 6'1", he's 206. He's a transfer from Howard. And I really, really like him around the line of scrimmage. Okay, you signed a Malik Hooker who could play a little bit more with range and on the back end. So maybe you need, and depending on what you do with Curse, I think is something that we have to also consider here. But this guy's like a really, really physical player, and if you check his history too, he's had interceptions in the past. So, the ball skills and stuff were there. He had a great one-handed interception in the Indiana game I was watching, and another one against Alabama in the playoff game that I was watching. But he's kind of one of those guys that kind of floats in the secondary, and then like really, what's his assignment? And then he just kind of goes for the ball, But you see the awareness. He doesn't get fooled. He's used as a blitzer. He's got a burst in the way he plays. I just kind of liked him as that, that maybe that day three guy that has got some toughness to him, got some coverability to him, creates turnovers. Guy you can keep an eye on for that for sure.
Kind of an aggressive player.
Yeah.
Pairing with Hooker, you can maybe put him in a rotation with Curse as a developmental guy, not a plug and play sort of player prospect. I'm also reading here, this was the first year that he logged more than 220 snaps, period.
Yeah.
So playing time could certainly help him out in that regard as well. I like where your head's at.
Well, let me give you. I'm just kind of going through my list of guys in this round. If you're talking about one technique guys, and people have asked me a lot about on Twitter, is a John Ridgeway from Arkansas.
I watched him.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead if you want to.
I have powerful, smart player, uses great technique and strength to win at the point of attack, run stuffer. He anchors the middle. Not going to have that side-to-side that lateral movement as much as other top players in the draft or top interior defensive linemen. But if you want a run stuffer and you want a guy who's going to anchor the middle of your defensive line so your edge guys and your linebackers can run free, I think he's a guy you could pick up in the second and third round.
Yeah, I have him more in the fourth myself. And but I think to me, and he'll probably go earlier than that, but, here's a guy at 6'5", 321 pounds. And, I think the initial quickness is there, and then sometimes he gets stuck along the line of scrimmage, but he can take up the blockers like you're talking about. I don't think he's going to get a ton of sacks, but the best thing he does is he pushes the middle. The strength, the power is super impressive with the way this guy played. He was a transfer from Illinois State, and I could see him, like I said this is my notes in the last thing, I could see this guy having a long career playing that one technique or nose. That, these guys are always, they kind of play 8-10 years just taking up blocks, not getting pushed off the ball, being strong. John Ridgway, Arkansas, keep an eye on that one probably maybe as a day 3 guy that might do something. If the Cowboys, if in fact they're looking for, if they don't get the opportunity to draft Matthias from Oklahoma or excuse me, from Alabama, or Travis Jones from UConn, something like that. Now you're talking about the guys like Ridgway, Farrell, another guy from LSU can definitely be in that mix.
Speaking of defensive line, and this name's just right in this conversation of the Jones and the Mathises, Logan Hall out of Houston.
Yeah, he's going to go a lot higher, but I totally get what you're saying here.
But I don't know if we talked about him on this show specifically. What do you think about him? Because I've been getting a lot of questions about him too.
No.
I like him a lot. I think he's a great player.
Yeah, if you remember if you can envision David Irving, that's the body type, and because you're looking at 6'6" and 283, maybe a little bit heavier than what David Irving was. But he's a 3 technique that people kind of feel like that he might be a defensive end.
Could be an edge.
Because I was thinking he was more like a 5 technique, which is in a 3-4 front, plays head up on the tackle in that, and that kind of thing. But I think he could play as a 3. I think he could play as a 5. He's got that kind of ability. I see there's got like some serious power with this guy. And there's several times when you watch him walk those guards back into the pocket, and he runs really, really well for his size. He doesn't get stuck in place too often. I've watched him control the gaps because of his size and his length. He's able to kind of extend on guys. Now, if you're interested in Parham, the
Memphis,
guard center from Memphis, get a hold of the Houston-Memphis game, and you can watch those two go at it because it was a pretty good battle.
Nice. When
those guys. So if you're looking for, if you're looking to try and sell Parham to somebody, he did a pretty good job against Logan Hall. And Parham at the time was a smaller guy who's kind of bulked up a little bit, but it was a pretty good battle between those guys.
I watched that game. I watched SMU. I watched Cincinnati. And I'm right there with you. That 5 technique is something that is really intriguing. Do you have him in the interior, or would you rather him on the outside?
I have him in I left him at the 3.
3 technique?
I left him at the 3, and just because I kind of feel like that, him, Wyatt, Lyall, Texas A&M, Georgia guys, I kind of got them in that mix. I have this as a second-round guy.
I do too, early second.
Yeah, and then, in the third round, then, Winfrey would be a guy. That's from the Oklahoma cat.
Sure.
They're kind of all in that mix. It's a really good group, a good little pocket of those 1 and 3 technique guys.
Any day 3 linebackers that you've had your eye on at all?
Yeah, I watched Beavers, and maybe I'm a little bit low on Beavers, but he's a guy. I had him in the 4th round, and he's probably going to go higher than that. But I just didn't. He's really kind of there's this draft has a couple of these guys. These throwback 6'4", 237-pound linebackers. That but they're in this draft, and he has the size. Like I say, he has that size of a guy from another era of football. And But I do feel like he's got some range, and I do feel he's really good when the ball goes right at him because he's got the size and the strength to take blockers on and make the play. He's a good tackler. He's not going to miss many of those that I saw. Many of his coverage snaps aren't the types of plays where he drops and then he can handle. I mean, he's just a kind of a basic cover guy, and so I'm kind of a fan of his. But I saw there were some things that the coverage wise bothered me a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it maybe, like I said, is, that would be something. How many downs does this guy really get to play? But if you watch him in the Notre Dame game and stuff like that, man, he created some turnovers. Yeah. And so you have to give him a tip of the cap for that.
My favorite fun fact about Darien Beavers is the fact that he was a receiver and a safety in high school. You think about 6'4", no 230 pounds, rolling down the sideline at wide receiver. And then he went to UConn initially, and then transferred from UConn to Cincinnati. And we make the joke about Georgia, how Georgia's going to have an entire roster drafted. Right. Cincinnati's got some defensive studs and a couple offensive guys for that matter with a quarterback and Ritter and Alec Pierce at wide receiver. They've got guys scattered all throughout this draft.
Yeah, and if I can give you one other player too.
Yes, please.
I like this Charlie Kohler higher. I mean, but I'm going to give you a name of a guy to keep an eye on. Jake Ferguson from Wisconsin is a 6'5", 250-pound tight end. Mm-hmm. And this guy's got some really soft hands. I mean, he catches the ball super easily. He doesn't fight it at all. He kind of frees himself downfield. Like his big move is arm over. And then like you get up on him and he like arm overs and then he gets into his route. So you'll see this like 2 or 3 times a game that he does that. But he'll line up at various spots. Kind of feel like his best work is when he can line up in the slot as opposed to being in line. But he knows how to get open in the red zone, and his height and his length give him a little bit of an advantage when he's in this area. And he's got some really kind of some nifty moves as well. So finishing blocks, not the strongest suit of his. He had a block in the Penn State game where he came off the ball and really punished this guy, and that was kind of the first time I was like, whoa, I guess he's capable of doing that. But there's times where he will catch the ball and go to the ground too. Maybe not a whole heck of a lot after the catch, but that red zone stuff and the soft receiver-like hands really kind of get me going there.
I like the idea of him being a blocker too because he's a solid blocker.
Yeah.
And then he's probably a step down from the Weidermeyers and the McBrides, the Dulcich and the Ruckerts of the world.
Yeah.
Probably that second tier of tight end.
Yeah, I think there's a group, and keep an eye on, there's a group like Cole Turner is another guy out of Nevada.
Yeah.
That I think, I got this in this like 4th round group of tight ends. Cole Turner from Nevada, Kohler from Iowa State, Ferguson from Wisconsin, who I mentioned, and likely is in that group too. That's Coastal Carolina, right?
Yes.
That's where that guy's from. So, yeah, those are all kind of those guys in that 4th round that, if the Cowboys, if that's the route they want to go, if it's just kind of a 1-year deal for Dalton Schultz, I kind of feel like there's a good group of tight ends from rounds 3 and 4 that you can maybe grab a guy from.
And then I'm going to end this segment. We've only got about a minute left, but where we started with the secondary, one more name out of the secondary that's like a late 3rd round, 4th round guy, maybe even day 3 guy that you really like as maybe that backup plan if the Cowboys go elsewhere.
I love Marcus Jones, the short corner from Houston.
Okay.
I mean, and I think that people will probably ding him for being, for his lack of height. I think he's right at 5'8" is what 5'8", 174. This guy, and I'm just going to and I'll leave it with this. This is one of the most dynamic players I've studied in the country this year. I mean, he can play as a specialist and as a returner. He could be a nickel. He's fearless the way he plays with the ball in his hands, the change of direction, all that stuff. He'll come forward. He'll make plays. I said in my last line, don't sleep on this player due to his height. He is really a good player.
I think you're spot on because he is short. He's 5'8".
Oh, he's 5'8". He's 174. He's not perfect for everybody, but somebody is going to get. He started his career at Troy there in Alabama and then transferred to Houston. But, man, this guy sees the entire field, and he has rare ability as a returner. He really does.
I had a note that you had mentioned him about a month ago.
Keep an eye on him.
And keep an eye on him. He's worked his way into the top 100 in a couple of ways.
He's gonna go a lot earlier than I have him. But
nice.
I think the player's got some special traits to him. Don't let the lack of height fool you there. This guy's gonna play in the league.
Well, Brian, it was a lot of fun.
It was fun. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. We'll be back on Tuesday with Jeff Kavanaugh, David Hellman, and the entire group here from the Star in Frisco. Hope this made you feel a little bit better about what has been a frustrating week for Cowboys fans, but that's okay. We're always looking forward to the future. For Chris Beam, Brian Broaddus, I'm Kyle Youmans. We'll see you next time on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.